My lady? Sure. Yeah, so the question is composting vitamins and that any medications. I would say no. If the vitamins are from a good source, no problem at all. That's fine. Yep. As long as but I would say if they're like prenatal vitamins, gelatinous, and have gelatin in them, and it's a non-organic gelatin that probably wouldn't be broken down organically. I wouldn't recommend doing that. But like, say if you have like the thing about vitamins though is if you have like a jar of them, you just want to be a little careful because you can create a lot of fluctuation. So, sir? No,
Do you have a favorite fungus that you spray on wood chips?
yeah, so I touched on it real quick earlier. It's the question was, do you have a preferred fungus that you put on the wood chip? It's called mycorrhizal fungus, Mycorrhizal, something like that. Mycos for short. Mycorrhizal fungus basically creates a ton of strands. They're called hypha or a hyphal network. And basically, what happens is fungus will work in the rhizosphere, which is basically an area between the root and the outside. Basically, these mycorrhizal fungal hyphae penetrate the rhizosphere and then extend literally miles into the soil. It can be a mile away from your garden, and it might be leaching into magnesium because you don't have any magnesium in your garden. So basically, what mycorrhizal fungus does is creates they're basically like organic steroids for your organic steroidal highway for your garden that provides nutrients, water, and numerous other things as well. So mycorrhizal fungus is what we prefer. And the lady right next. Yeah, so I didn't touch upon that today because I didn't know if I'd have enough time. But the question was, do we use any tea? So what I try to do to make this earthworm castings go a lot further is we create something called an actively aerated compost tea. An actively aerated compost tea is essentially Mother Nature's form of fortified nutrients for your garden. It has millions of bacteria and sometimes a little bit of fungus if you plant it right. But basically what it does is you provide a little bit of simple sugars in the form of blackstrap molasses. You put it in a 5-gallon bucket with air stone and a pretty good aquarium pump with a little line. And basically you put some blackstrap molasses in there and a handful of earthworms castings in a satchel of burlap. And you let it sit in lukewarm water, about 60 to 70 degrees room temperature, for 24 to 36 hours. What happens is all the bacteria that's in the earthworms castings will start eating the simple carbohydrates, the blackstrap molasses. And what they do is so you'll have, say, 100 organisms, group of organisms in the compost in the earthworm castings. As soon as they start eating the sugars, they're going to start producing. You're going to have 100 million in 24 hours. So you took something that was minimal and made it huge. You pour that onto your plants. You pour it onto your plants, onto your soil. You can pour it onto the wood chips. And also you can put it into aerators, a sprayer, but it has to be a special sprayer because basically you can spray it on your plants and it'll create that bacteria will go on your plants and create a symbiotic on the relationship on the leaf surface. When you do that, though, you do have to have the right sprayer because you're working with live organisms. Bacteria is a live organism. You can kill it. So if you spray it in too small of a nozzle with the wrong sprayer, it will kill all that bacteria before you make your plant. So.
And on the coattails of composting, compost tea, that's another one of the reasons why we do wood chip gardening, because every time it rains, Mother Nature is producing that compost tea for us, because the bottom inch or so of that wood chip bed is composting by itself. So when the rain comes down, hits it, it's going to saturate the bottom layer of compost and go down into the soil. And it's just self-composting itself and adding compost tea that we don't have to make to it.
We can take probably 2 more questions and then that will be that. Yes, my lady?
You said email you.
Yep.
Where?
Okay, so we're gonna have cards up here if anybody wants to come up, but it's in my. I couldn't get a good web URL, so it's a little lengthy. I'm working on it, but it's info@northshoreorganicscompany.com. Info@northshoreorganicscompany.com, or you can just go on Facebook, facebook.com/northshoreorganic, and you can message us there. We're kind of all over the place. My lady in the back. I actually do pull them up. So the question was, when I harvest, do I? I will lay some cards down right now. So the question was, do I pull up the whole root, the whole plant, and the root system and everything? There's a lot of different ways. You can leave it down there, and it's great fertilization. But what I typically do is I like to pull it up and just leave it there. And then what I do, right on top of the wood chips, and then what I do is I kind of just let that marinate in the wood chips that are already pre-existent, and all of that just becomes fertilizer. So I don't know what this is. I try to get back on the other slide, but that broccoli that I showed you earlier, I just chop that up just a little bit because you don't want a huge mass down there. So you just chop it up a little bit, and I put it down, and then each season I reset. In the fall time, I reset more wood chips over that. So it provides more nitrogen amongst the wood chips as well. Amongst the wood chips too, big disclaimer is I also put my earthworm casting into my wood chip gardens. So all of that earthworm casting that I'm making, I'm dumping in. That provides nitrogen. So if you just put plants into wood chips without any root base or anything, you're going to have a nitrogen deficiency and kill your plants. So definitely set them into the ground and make sure that you have a root structure happening before you put any wood chips on. There is a little more to it than that. And one more, my lady. Yep. Yep. No, so I should say that too. So I do take out my coffee grinds and eggshells. In the interest of time, I couldn't go too in depth on everything, but I do take out my eggshells and coffee grinds because that's just beautiful stuff. So I like to give that to the earthworms first. So eat all that first, and then I shouldn't say earthworms, red wiggler worms. And then what I do is you don't want to really, you can put meat and oil and grease and cheese and all of that into it, but basically what happens is it creates smells, it's protein, so it takes a long time for it to break down. And when protein doesn't break down for a while, it creates a smell. What happens with smells, flies come, then you have maggots, and it's just a gross sort of situation. So I recommend more carbon than that. If you do have a lot of meat and those sorts of things, I recommend lightly composting it for 30 days or so in a composter. But again, it can get a little gross. The best thing is to kind of get away from that and to try to make sure that you're not overcooking so much meat that you're not eating it. Again, try not to have so much waste so that you have to throw it. But if you do have that waste, you can certainly utilize that in many different ways. So I thank you all so much. It was wonderful.
Thank you.
Happy to be here.